Hello and a very good morning. You're tuned into Market Cafe. I'm Ankita Saxena and it is a fresh start to the week. We are getting you all the cues you need to watch out for before the start of D Street today, and all of that transpired on the geopolitical front. Well, first up, let's take stock of how the Wall Street shaped up. Well, on Friday, we did see mixed moves coming in, strong moves coming in Dow Jones Industrial Average, where we do see, 594 points. There's almost 600 points of an uptick coming in, 1% gains on Dow Jones. Now, we did see that sectoral churn that is continuing. Now, remember, we do see the tech stocks, the rally in the AI names, semiconductor names, that's cooling off, and that money is clearly going towards the stocks in the Dow Jones, and therefore we are seeing a big uptick coming in Dow yet again, and a Nasdaq that saw a cut of 0.8%, 200 odd points cut coming in. So this rotation is still going on as far as tech stocks are concerned. So Nasdaq trading down 200 odd points. S&P 500 was absolutely flat on Friday. But we have markets that are waiting the Fed minutes this week. So that's something that we are watching out for. And we did see the labor market also cooling off, which gives a hope of it gives us the hope that the rates will be not held high, because on account of that lower rates are something that we are penciling in. On account of that also, that gave a big fillip to the market, and Dow Jones also traded up on account of that. But also the oil prices are cooling off. In fact, oil is below the $72 per barrel mark. In fact, if you look at the Brent, that holds near 4-month lows right now, because the OPEC Plus has agreed to further increase its output targets from August, while the exports from key producers via the Strait of Hormuz are recovering, potentially adding to global supplies. And on account of that, we do see oil prices that have cooled off a bit. Brent crude, like I mentioned, is sub $72 per barrel. WTI is also trading at $68.84 a barrel. So that's how really the crude oil is moving at this point. Look at the Asian handover there. A mixed handover is what we are getting. Nikkei is trading down 0.6% right now. Hang Seng is absolutely flat, though in the red. Shanghai is trading up 0.3%, and S&P ASX 200 is trading with gains of just 10 odd points. So very flat moves is what we see coming in. And look at the implied start to Nifty as well, indicating a very, very muted flat start with cuts of just 18 odd points. So a muted start is what we can expect on Monday morning. But on the geopolitical front, US President Donald Trump marked America's 250th independence anniversary with a campaign-style address on Washington's National Mall, combining patriotic themes with political messaging. Trump renewed calls for tighter voting laws, warned against the rise of communism, and defended his foreign policy, while weather delays and tight security marked the celebrations attended by thousands. He also defended his tariff policies while hailing the US economy. Let's listen in.
And by the way, our country today is doing better than it's ever done before. Never had anything like it. With, as of last week, $19.2 trillion pouring into the United States right now from all over the world. That's the investments being made, and the record was 3. 4 years. In 4 years, the last administration did much less than 1, and we did 19.2 in 12 months. And thanks to our great election win, November 5th, and the tariffs, plants and factories are being built all over the United States right now, and they're being built at a number that we've never, ever seen before. So much more. We're breaking records by double, triple, quadruple. We created the strongest and most powerful military. We won 2 world wars, the Cold War, and left America's enemies in the depths of history. We beat Venezuela in 1 day. And we knocked the hell out of Iran. They're dying to settle. They want to settle so badly. We gave them a week off for a funeral because we're nice.
And Iran has begun a week-long state funeral for Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, with tens of thousands gathering in Tehran to pay their respects, while 3 of Khamenei's sons appeared alongside the coffins during the funeral prayers. His successor, Supreme Leader Mujtaba Khamenei, made a no appearance, fueling speculations over his condition after reports that he was injured in the airstrikes that killed his father. And Trump has held separate calls with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, reviving the diplomatic efforts to end the war in Ukraine. Trump reiterated his willingness to help broker a peace deal, while both Kiev and Moscow maintained sharply different positions on the path to a settlement ahead of next week's NATO summit. And OPEC Plus has approved another oil output increase for August, marking its fifth consecutive monthly production hike as crude exports through the Strait of Hormuz gradually recover. The alliance will raise production by 188,000 barrels per day, even as oil prices remain under pressure and improving supply and softer Chinese demand. And Norway have produced the biggest upset of the FIFA World Cup so far, knocking out five-time champions Brazil with a dramatic late 2-1 victory. Erling Haaland was the hero, scoring twice to send Norway into their first ever World Cup quarterfinals. After a goalless contest for most of the match, Haaland scored in the 79th and the 90th minute to seal a famous victory. Neymar converted a stoppage time penalty, but Brazil ran out of time. Norway will now face either Mexico or England in the quarterfinals, while Brazil's wait for a sixth World Cup title goes on after another exit to European opposition. Meanwhile, an emotional Neymar said his career with Brazil had finished. And PM Modi is expected to visit Australia from July 8th to July 10th, with the two countries set to further strengthen the strategic partnership. The visit is expected to focus on deepening defense and security cooperation through two key outcomes: joint declaration on defense and security cooperation and a maritime security cooperation roadmap. And let's go across to my colleague Srinjoy, who's getting us more on this story.
After his visit to Indonesia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be reaching Australia. And this is a very important visit because there are two big issues on the agenda: security and sport. Now, as far as security is concerned, India and Australia are already part of Quad, which also includes Japan and the United States. But this time, there are two agreements that are going to happen. The first is a joint declaration, which will be an overarching agreement. And this really will ensure closer defense and strategic ties between Australia and India. Now, there is a lot happening here. It will mean more exercises between the two armed forces. It will also mean better interoperability. It will mean more intelligence sharing. And let's not forget that the elephant in the room is China. Chinese maritime activity close to Australia has been increasing in recent times. Also, America has made a significant point. It's no longer the Indo-Pacific Command in Hawaii. It's the Pacific Command. So Australia and India have to keep these two things in mind. The second agreement will be a maritime agreement, a maritime cooperation agreement, which will mean closer ties between the Australians and the Indians, their navies and their coast guards, particularly in the Eastern Indian Ocean. There is also economic security, and an agreement is being worked on between the Australians and the Indians, and this will be more than the current economic agreement they have, the ECTA. Besides that, there is sport, and Australia is seen as a sporting superpower by India. In the last two Olympics, they got 18 and 17, 35 gold medals together in two Olympics. In the history of the Olympics, India since 1928 has got 10, including 8 in hockey. Now Australia is doing something well, and this relates to sports management, which includes talent spotting, sponsorship, training, greater facilities, all of that, and also sports medicine. It's not just about keeping a sportsperson in shape. It's about ensuring that he or she peaks at the right time. Now, India believes that India and Australia, and to an extent New Zealand, can work together as far as sports management and sports medicine is concerned. Because these are small countries with small populations. And yet, India, with a population of 1.4 billion, should do better in the sports arena. Australia's population is less than 30 million. New Zealand's is less than 5 million. And yet, they have done so well. So, sports and security as far as Australia and India is concerned. And let's not forget, the big event, the really big event, will be at the Melbourne Cricket Ground.
All right, moving on then, Prime Minister Modi has embarked on a three-nation tour covering Indonesia, Australia and New Zealand with a strong focus on strengthening India's Indo-Pacific strategy. Defence cooperation, critical minerals, trade, digital partnerships and strategic ties are expected to dominate the discussions. Sumita is now joining us to tell us what to watch out for.
That's right. The Prime Minister is going to be on a three-nation tour amidst an Act East policy push, defence, economy, strategic Indo-Pacific ties. All of them are going to be in focus. So the first leg of his visit is going to be to Indonesia. Starting today till the 8th of July, he's going to be engaging with his Indonesian counterpart, or rather the President of Indonesia. And then he moves on to Australia from the 8th till the 10th of July, wherein he's going to be holding talks with his Australian counterpart, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He's going to be also addressing a forum of CEOs at the India-Australia CEO Forum, engaging with the Indian diaspora in Australia. And then the last leg of his visit is to New Zealand from the 10th till the 11th of July. Remember, this is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to New Zealand in nearly 4 decades. So he's going to be holding talks with his New Zealand counterpart, Christopher Luxon, reviewing bilateral ties between India and New Zealand. Because remember, India and New Zealand signed an FTA in 2026 earlier this year. And then, of course, there's going to be interaction with the business community as well. Now, if we talk about the first leg of his tour, which is to Indonesia, remember, Indonesia is India's largest trading partner in the ASEAN group. There's going to be a focus on BrahMos missile system because it's been a matter of discussion in the Indonesian parliament. There are going to be talks around, investments in food processing, fertilizers and strategic reserves. Deals are likely to happen in the spaces of pharma, health, education space, and of course, critical minerals. Now, when we talk about critical minerals, well, Indonesia possesses some of the world's largest reserves of nickel, amongst other critical minerals. And of course, nickel as an element is essential for EVs, for batteries, for advanced manufacturing and processing facilities. And of course, it's going to give a boost to supply chain. So of course, a whole spectrum of segments are in focus.
And moving on then, Union Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal has shared key updates on India's outgoing free trade agreement negotiations with several countries. He talked about the FTA with Peru, Israel and Canada. Let's listen in.
Peru, there are certain concerns. There are many products where we cannot offer them market access. So I do not see Peru FTA happening very soon. Israel, as you are aware, is currently having the West Asia crisis. Even then, our negotiations, our discussions are going on, albeit a little slow. Let us hope that we can fast-track it after the peace process is over. Canada FTA is progressing well. I think my team is going on Monday for negotiations. And we are trying that we should conclude it in the next 6 months or so.
And PM Narendra Modi says that the West Asia conflict triggered a sharp rise in global crude oil prices, heading to higher fuel prices and shortages in several countries. However, India did not face any fuel price hikes. The government swiftly directed domestic refineries to ramp up LPG production, ensuring uninterrupted supplies despite disruptions to import from the Gulf region. Let's listen in.
हमने संकट शुरू होते ही रिफाइनरीज के सामर्थ्य पर फोकस किया। औद्योगिक काम के लिए जो गैस बनती थी, उसकी जगह रिफाइनरीज को रसोई गैस एलपीजी बनाने के लिए कहा गया और 7 दिनों के भीतर भीतर एलपीजी के उत्पादन में बढ़ोतरी हुई। पहले जो 35,000 मैट्रिक टन एलपीजी का उत्पादन देश में होता था, संकट के दौरान वो 54,000 मैट्रिक टन बढ़ गया। जिन रिफाइनरीज ने पहले कभी एलपीजी नहीं बनाया था, उन्हें भी इसके लिए कॉन्फ़िगर किया गया। साथियों, युद्ध की वजह से डीजल पेट्रोल पर आया संकट भी बहुत बड़ा था। हमारे देश में तेल के बड़े बड़े कुएं नहीं हैं। जब ये संकट बढ़ा तो क्रूड ऑयल की कीमतें $70 प्रति बैरल से $120 प्रति बैरल तक पहुंच गई थी। आयात के रास्ते भी बंद थे। दुनिया के कई देशों में डीजल पेट्रोल की कीमतों में 40 से 50% का इजाफा हो गया। कई देशों में तो डीजल पेट्रोल कोटे के आधार पर मिलने लगा था, लेकिन भारत में एक दिन भी ऐसे हालात नहीं आए।
All right, let's move on then to the next story. The monsoon session of Parliament will commence on the 20th July and continue until the 13th of August, with both the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha expected to take up key legislative businesses and other politically significant issues. The dates for the session were announced by Parliamentary Affairs Minister Kiran Raju. Let's go across to my colleague Darshita on the business updates that are coming in this morning. Let's take a look at that.
Right, there are multiple business updates which have come up, and starting off first with the banking space, we're starting with Kotak Mahindra Bank. The bank has reported a steady Q1 business update where the total deposits grew 11.7% YOY, coming to 5.73 lakh crore, while the net advances were up by almost 15%, coming to 5.12 lakh crore. And the CASA deposit has also increased to 10.2%, reflecting healthy business update momentum this quarter. Next up, we have is HDFC Bank, which continued to report the strong growth across the key business metrics, where the average advances rose 10.8%, while the period-end advances were up 15.4% YOY. And the deposit also remained robust with double-digit growth, and the CASA deposits continued to see the healthy traction, highlighting the bank's strong deposit franchise. Moving on to Yes Bank, where the lender also posted a healthy Q1 business update, where the loans to advances increased to 18.4% YOY, coming in at 2.85 lakh crore rupee, while the deposits grew almost 14%, coming in at 3.15 lakh crore rupee. Now, this indicates that steady growth that's the core business.
All right, Darshita, thank you so much for joining us with that. But let's move on then. The US Department of Justice has strongly defended its decision to drop the criminal case against Gautam Adani and 7 others, telling a federal court that a prosecution should never have been pursued. It argued that the case was legally weak, largely centered in India, and no longer matched the Trump administration's reinforcement priorities. My colleague Anurag is now joining us with the details of this case.
The US Department of Justice has defended a decision to abandon a criminal case against billionaire Gautam Adani. The department told a federal judge that the prosecution in the case was flawed and it was reacting to dropping criminal charges against Gautam Adani and 7 others. The DOJ said that the case should have been dropped a year ago and never should have been brought in the first place. The DOJ said in the filing that the court had only a limited role in reviewing its decision to dismiss the charges with prejudice. The US District Court Judge Garofis asked the DOJ to explain why it was seeking to permanently dismiss the indictment. Now, the case goes back to 2024 when the DOJ under the Biden administration indicted Adani and others, and the charges alleged a scheme to bribe Indian government officials $250 million and allegedly lied to investors. And this was allegedly happening around the same time when Adani Green Energy raised around $175 million dollars from the US investors. The DOJ cited 6 key reasons for dropping charges. These included alleged conduct was overwhelmingly centered in India. The authorities investigated the allegations and they have found no actionable misconduct, and the investors suffered no financial losses.
All right, moving on then. India's banking sector has kicked off the first quarter with healthy credit growth, although deposit mobilization remains a key challenge. Loan growth has broadly outpaced deposits across several lenders. Mitali is now joining us with the updates of large banking names.
Right, so talking about the large private banks, and if you see the quarter 1 business updates, they show a similar trend for all these banks. The credit growth, it remains resilient, but the rattle for deposits, especially the low cost CASA, it continues to intensify. Starting with first, the HDFC Bank, the advances have grown nearly 15.4% on a yearly basis, slightly ahead of the 14.7% deposit growth. While the business momentum, it remains healthy, the CASA ratio has slipped to 32.4%, highlighting persistent pressure on the low-cost deposits. Now moving to Axis Bank, which has delivered one of the strongest updates across the banking sector. Advances rose nearly 19%, while deposits have surged 18%. And if you see the term deposits, there a rise of nearly 23% have been observed on an yearly basis. However, the CASA balances, they have declined on a sequential basis, reflecting the industry-wide funding challenge. Also, Kotak Mahindra Bank, the loan growth there remained healthy at 15% yearly, while the deposits have largely been flat on a sequential basis. Although end-of-period CASA, they declined, the average deposit and average CASA has improved for the bank. IndusInd Bank, it continued its recovery, advances risen nearly 3.3% on a quarterly basis, and deposits growing faster than loans on a sequential basis. Among the mid-sized lenders, so IDBI Bank saw nearly 22% loan growth, but sequential deposit contraction weighed on overall business growth. Also, Yes Bank reported a 4% sequential loan growth, but weaker deposits, and also the elevated credit deposit ratio above 90%, reflecting higher liquidity condition. So overall, if you see the credit demand across the banking sector, it remains healthy, but the deposit mobilization, particularly in front of CASA, it continues to be the biggest differentiator for the banks. Back to you.
Right, so those are all the stocks, banking names that you need to watch out for. But let's talk about the other stocks that will be in focus on back of news flow. For that, my colleague Rabindra is now joining us with all the stocks and news.
Well, as on the back of order win, Envino Infra can be in focus, where company has received two order worth of rupees 257 crore from UP Jal Nigam, and this order is approximately 22% of the company's FY26 revenue. NBCC India can be in focus on the back of the order win. Company has received 3 work order worth of rupees approximately 132 crore. And apart from this, keep an eye on Rubicon Research, where Rubicon Research can be in focus, where company's Pithampur plant has received 2 observations from the US FDA under Form 483 following its inspection. And this was the first US FDA inspection of the facility since its acquisition last year. Meanwhile, the company said the ramp-up of the Pithampur plant remain on track for Q1 of CY27, indicating that expansion plans continued as scheduled. From the healthcare space, Fortis Healthcare can be in focus, where company has signed an agreement with the Dion Group to operate 300-bed multi-speciality hospital in Kotak, marking its entry in the Odisha state. Schaeffler India can be in focus, where company has become first company to secure BIS license for cylindrical roller bearing under the New India standard. And on the back of acquisition from the real estate space, Prestige Estate can be in focus, where company to buy 50% stake in Advent Convention for rupees 504 crore. And lastly, on the back of business update, Godrej Consumer can be in focus, where Godrej Consumer has announced the Q1 of FY27 business update. Company reported very good set of business update for the Q1 of FY27, and growth remained broad-based across categories, and company expect to deliver high teens revenue growth in Q1 of FY27, which is ahead of the full year guidance of double-digit revenue growth, which is backed by the strong high single-digit underlying value growth. And consolidated EBITDA is also expected to land ahead of the company's double-digit guidance, although margins will be lower due to exceptional cost pressure. So back of this, Godrej Consumer can be in focus.
So those are the stocks that will be in focus today. But let's move on to the insurance distribution ecosystem that could be headed for a major overhaul. ET Now has exclusively learned that the IRDAI is examining insurance commission disclosures as part of its upcoming distribution reforms. Anurag Shah is now joining us with the exclusive.
Insurance regulator IRDA is all set to release consultation paper on distribution reforms, commission reforms by month end, and as per our sources, commission disclosures will also be part of the discussion paper because IRDA is aiming for a higher transparency. So, large value non-retail policies will have commission disclosures on policy, which means amount of commission paid for that insurance policies will be disclosed for high value non-retail insurance policies. Other than that, effort-based commission will also be part of the distribution reform, which means that as per the effort, commission will be designed, means the commission for agents will be different, for brokers will be different, for bank assurance channel commission will be different because a regulator is aiming to make insurance affordable, and as per our sources, the regulator is of understanding that affordability can be brought in insurance sector with lower distribution cost. So discussion paper will be out in next few days by month end, and after that there will be a wider consultation. So the consultation will be for 3 to 4 months, and after input from all stakeholders, a new commission regulation, new distribution regulations will be implemented most likely from 1st of January or from 1st April 2027.
All right, with that, it's time to pull down the curtains in this edition of Market Cafe. I'll take your leave. Thank you so much for tuning in.